This week was so much better than last week. We had so much more action, and the main storyline was showcased so much more in this episode. Also, in this episode, I liked the very good action sequences with Naruto and Bee fighting the Jinchuriki. I mean, it really shows how Naruto and Bee are struggling against the Jinchuriki because they have the Renegon, the Sharingan, and they have been reanimated with the tailed beast put inside them. It shows how these guys are really strong, the Jinchuriki are, and it shows how Naruto and Bee are really trying their hardest, but they can't seem to get through to them. And another thing, it wasn't just that this episode had a lot better action and a lot better filler than last week's, and a lot less filler than last week's. It also had a lot better development than last week's, considering the fight progressed so much more in this week's, as in last week's we only got to see a little bit of Naruto versus all the Jinchuriki and Toby. It was only about 3 minutes in last week's episode that we got to see with the Jinchuriki battle. This week's, it was probably 15 minutes of the episode just dedicated to the Jinchuriki battle, and that's what I like to see. I like the battle episodes so much more than just the talky episodes, because it progresses the story further and overall makes for a lot better episode. But the biggest thing that I liked about this episode was there was so much less filler in this episode than there was in last week's. Last week's had no development whatsoever, as it was pretty much just Utakata and Naruto talking the whole time. It had no relevance to the main storyline. But this week, we actually had a flashback, or it was kind of filler, to the past between Kisame and Roshi's battle. And last week's, the filler was talking, as in this week's, the filler was just all battle, and I liked that a lot. But yeah, we had pretty good action with Naruto and Bee versus the Jinchuriki, Hinata and Neji versus Zetsu, and Darui versus the Zetsu. That was actually good action, and I enjoyed seeing those battles. Another positive with this episode is we got to see the humor with Bee and Yugito when Yugito's shirt got ripped open and he was staring there. It was pretty funny in my opinion, and I liked that part just because it made me laugh. And the animation didn't falter a lot, so that was good. It may have had a couple spots where it did, but overall the animation was pretty good. The only two flaws I had with this episode were, how did Kakashi and Guy finish off Mangetsu so quickly and then run over to Naruto and wait? They actually waited for Naruto to get touched and then attacked. I don't know how they could have finished that, came up with that plan so quickly, and got over there so quickly. It didn't really make sense to me. But that's not a huge flaw in my opinion. And the other flaw is the flashback with Roshi. I said it was good, but it may have been a little too long. I mean, it was around 4 or 5 minutes, so I was just kind of saying get back to the main story. Other than that, I really enjoyed this episode a lot more than last week's, and it was good overall. It had good action, it had good humor, it incorporated a lot of good aspects in it, including development. There was only a couple negatives I had, and overall, I'd give this episode an 8 out of 10. Alright guys, if you like this video, you can subscribe to me, and look in the description box below. You can subscribe via text message, like me on Facebook, or follow me on Twitter. Alright guys, well this has been Story and Truth. Have a good day.